right, Trenton, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tyler. Really glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, as part of our efforts to highlight our Digital Inclusion Award winners, I wanted to ask you just a few questions about Kwikkom's efforts to sort of close the digital divide and bring broadband to all of America.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, so we can just dive right in. I think one of the first things I wanted to talk about is Kwikkom's strong focus on connecting rural communities and school districts. I think this is a crucial component of the digital divide. These areas, as you know, have often been neglected over the years and have sort of been, persistent deserts when it comes to broadband availability. Can you share just a bit more about your sort of motivation behind prioritizing these underserved areas and just how that aligns with your broader mission?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to that's what Kwikom was born out of. It was started in Iola, Kansas, very much rural Kansas, rural Mid America, your classic rural community. And the original founder of the company goal was to provide reliable internet to folks that lived in and around Iowa and southeast Kansas, and it's just grown from there, and it's always staying true to that. And so as technology has grown, has gotten improved, specifically with fiber broadband, and the economics have allowed for it, we've started to then build into those rural communities. And we understand the need for the reliable high-speed internet in the rural communities, maybe more so than what others that are based in a more urban environment do, because there is quite a gap between some of the things that folks that live in rural America can do versus those that maybe live in more densely populated areas can do. And I'm talking not about capabilities, but I'm talking about the tools and resources to really help them connect with the rest of the world and really take advantage of all of the things that high-speed internet brings to maybe those people that might take it for granted a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think that this is something we talk about quite a bit, but access to the internet, it's not a luxury anymore, right? It's basically a prerequisite for participating in modern living. And so in that sense, I mean, the work you're doing is incredibly important.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, especially during the pandemic, we really found, I think, how reliable we are on high-speed internet, and a lot of people in rural communities really, had to. They were able to take advantage of some of the. They weren't able to take full advantage of maybe all of the things that high-speed internet brought to everyone else during the pandemic, from a work from home standpoint, shopping for essential goods and services. Folks in rural communities had to find another alternative, right? It wasn't as easy for them to take advantage of a lot of the things that some of the more urban communities were able to take advantage of because of high-speed internet.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, another component of the digital divide that doesn't get talked about as much, but we spend a lot of time on because we think it's really important, is this idea of digital literacy and digital inclusion, right? Making sure that people who do have access to the internet understand how to use it and have the tools to make the most of it, kind of like what you're describing, right?
Yep.
A part of that is education and also sort of service and maintenance, right? Making sure that people understand that they can rely on a provider to keep their connection up when they need it for these crucial tasks, right?
Yep.
As I understand it, your technicians are locally based, right? So they're providing both in-person and phone support. So sort of how has that local presence impacted just your customer relationships, overall, and sort of the success of your digital inclusion efforts?
Yeah, that's an important part of our business is that we do staff, without the entire company, but especially the people that are dealing with our customers on the front line. It's important that we staff with local people, and it really boils down to a very simple human concept: is that we tend to trust, those that are near us, right? We tend to trust our friends, our neighbors, our acquaintances a little bit more than maybe someone that we can't necessarily put a voice to a face with. And so whenever you have new technology, I think the one of the biggest components is trust. And without that trust, you maybe have a lack of adoption. That speed to adoption is much slower, as opposed to if once again you have your friend, your neighbor, a family member kind of helping to get you up to speed on what that new technology is. And so in our mind, having those local technicians, those local salespeople, the local support people really go a long way in helping to bridge that digital divide, because like I said, it comes down to you're generally going to take advice and feedback from those people that you trust. You generally are going to trust your friends, your neighbors, and your family, and the people in your family. So that's a very, very important part of our business model, is having that local support and the local sales to, not only convince that person that, hey, fiber is the way to go, and install it and get them all set up. But we're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there next week. We're going to be there a month from now, a year from now, as their needs change and as their lives change. So I think that's important as well, is that they recognize that, hey, we're not just there to sell them fiber internet today and be gone tomorrow. We're going to be around to help them understand and take advantage of this technology, and be there for when those when those technical glitches happen, if you will, to get them back on track and running. So it's all about trust, and providing that degree of neighborly help.
Can you talk through a bit about your partnership with LandRack? You're expanding high-speed internet. You're talking about fiber. This sort of, we talk about fiber as sort of the gold standard for broadband, right? It's really the only technology we know that's future-proof. Can you sort of just elaborate on how the collaboration with LandRack has sort of enhanced your ability to bring this sort of gold standard connectivity to these often overlooked areas?
Yeah, it's definitely supercharged our ability to expand fiber internet to these rural areas. It's something, right? Kwikom was definitely set out to do on its own and could have done on its own. But with the partnership with LandRack, it's really supercharged that and escalated that. LandRack has been around for several years. They've been in the E-rate space, and have developed and built several fiber networks for rural school districts all across the country. And so they obviously have deep rooted experience in deploying fiber technology now for several years. That knowledge that we can leverage at Kwikom, but it also provides that anchor in a lot of these communities where we can go in, and it's not as much as building from scratch, as we already have a foundation there to build out to, right? So these super awesome fiber networks that were built for rural school districts can now be branched off into the neighborhoods and the main street, and in some cases where some communities where another incumbent comes in and doesn't have that anchor, our speed to market is a lot quicker and a lot less disruptive, right? Because the core is already there. And so the partnership between the two, it's one of those things that they talk about 1 + 1 = 3. In this case, it's 1 + 1 = 4. It's a combination where the two have really exponentially benefited from each other. But ultimately, the consumer and the marketplaces are the ones that have been a real benefit to it.
Yeah, that just makes me think, having that sort of well-rounded approach where you sort of have the direct line to the consumer, sort of understanding what they need, taking a local approach, prioritizing something like fiber, but then also having the middle mile infrastructure understanding, right? The challenges there, and sort of figuring out what actually works when it comes to deploying this technology in a way that you can make it affordable and make it accessible to people.
Yeah, absolutely. The learning curve for Kwikom in terms of being able to deploy fiber has been, uh, dramatically lessened because of that partnership with WANRAC. And so we're able to bring that technology to consumers a lot quicker and a lot more efficient, maybe than some other internet providers that maybe have had to kind of learn from scratch, right? So fiber is a great technology, a wonderful technology for the consumer, but it is the latest in technology, and with that comes challenges. And WANRAC has kind of navigated through some of those challenges over the last several years, and challenges that Kwikom fortunately hasn't had to deal with quite as much as maybe some other internet service providers.
Definitely. Well, so given your experience there on both sides of that, and sort of this, we can zoom out and take a holistic look at bridging the digital divide in the United States. What are some just of the main challenges from a local standpoint that you've encountered in expanding access to sort of this gold standard of fiber, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, it's really about adoption. So it's a classic case of sometimes you don't know what you don't know. A consumer has, in many cases, they've obviously had internet up until, Kwikom. All of our customers that we're getting on the fiber have had internet service in some capacity. And it's ranged anywhere from satellite to fixed wireless to cable to DSL. And so it's not like they haven't been online, but they don't truly appreciate or know all of the advantages that come with fiber. So some of the things that you can do with fiber that you can't do with some of those other technologies that I've stated, they simply don't know about. And we try to do a good job of not telling them, hey, here's what you can do, here's what you need to do. But we try to unlock experiences for them. So we show them what you can do, right? We show and talk about people that, everyday people that are using fiber and what they're able to do today that they weren't able to do tomorrow or yesterday. I think a classic case is work from home, right? I think, COVID has, forced us all to kind of figure this out. And those in high speed and markets with high speed internet, made that transition very easily. But now all of a sudden, right, you don't your employment opportunities aren't just restricted to the community in which you live. It's quite frankly the whole world. And it's helping people in these rural communities discover that they do have that opportunity now. And so that's one of the big things is helping them understand that, hey, before, if you wanted to go work for a certain type of company, you would have to leave your hometown, right? You'd have to move far away from your friends and your family and your roots. You don't need to do that now. And that provides a great deal of freedom, I think, to people that live in these rural communities. It becomes an asset to these rural communities that, hey, people that possess a certain skill set, certain talent, they can use those right here in my hometown. They don't have to move halfway across the country or to another state or 200 miles away, 500 miles away, what have you. They can do that right here. And so, I think that's one of the big things that we've helped people to discover is that, the world's your oyster, honestly. And some of these companies that are based in maybe larger cities actually find value in tapping into that rural market, not just from a cost of labor standpoint, but just from a perspective standpoint. I think that as a larger company that maybe serves a large customer base, whether that be national or international, it's always good to have as many perspectives as you can. And I think up until this point, a lot of large companies have failed to really understand that that rural customer, that rural demographic. But now, by connecting them, we can really serve those companies that serve national and international customers with a much richer labor pool now than ever before. So, in short, it's helping customers in these rural communities see and understand some of the things that they can do now with fiber internet that they weren't able to do before. And so that's been pretty exciting to kind of watch their eyes being open to those possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're touching on something really fundamental there, right? Which is that it's about knowing what's possible, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you just said what you're describing there, sort of tapping into a larger labor market, unlocking new opportunities. That goes beyond just jobs, right? That's healthcare, that's distance learning, that's interactivity, that's
yeah,
connecting with people, staying connected to your community. All of these aspects, these are real sort of unlocks, right? These are things that you get that really enhance and enrich your life. And I think that many of us who have a fiber connection or a great internet connection in general, we take those things for granted, right? So I
yeah,
think this work that Kwikom is doing and other providers are doing is so important, because really we're playing catch up, right? We're trying to unlock
yeah,
this for everyone, and we're trying to bring
yeah,
these transformational benefits to every American. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's it provides a high level of satisfaction to have someone's eyes open in small town Kansas that 5 years ago, if they wanted to design the rockets that are going to be going to Mars, or designing the latest in automotive technology, they would have had to uproot themselves and the family and move far away. They don't need to do that anymore. They can do that right where they're living now. And it's just like I said, provides a high level of excitement to people in these rural communities in terms of what they're able to do now that they weren't able to do just a couple of years ago.
Well, Trenton, thank you so much. First of all, we're honored to highlight the efforts that you and Kwikom are doing to bring this technology to people, to close this divide, and do so in a way that helps people really understand what's possible. So, on behalf of Broadband Now, thank you so much. It was really great speaking with you today.
Yeah, likewise, and thank you guys for doing what you do. It's organizations such as yourself that help kind of amplify the message that we're trying to do at that local level. So very much appreciate all of the work that you do, and we were honored to receive this award, and look forward to partnering with Broadband Now, obviously now and going forward. So once again, thanks for everything that you guys do as well.